I think we're on, finally.
Let's see. I just re-pushed again. All right, trying this again. Hopefully this keeps running out there. We had all kinds of technical stuff. We've definitely transitioned to the virtual space, and last year on occasion we'd have issues, but certainly we continue to work through them and really apologize for making you all wait for us, but we're gonna be jumping in and answering as many questions as we can. And you all put in a ton of questions ahead of time. That was really helpful. Those of you that replied to the survey. So thanks again for doing that. For those of you that joined last time, you would have met me. This might be the first time joining. My name's Chad Eichhoff. I serve as Director of Admissions here at NAU, joined by a few of my colleagues tonight. Annika, if you can introduce yourself.
Yeah, great. Welcome, everyone. Welcome back for those of you that joined us back in December. And for those of you joining for the first time, welcome. And to everyone, Happy New Year. My name is Annika Olson. I serve as the Vice President for Enrollment Management here at Northern Arizona University. And I put up this virtual background today because that's exactly what it looked like on campus as I was making my way over to our campus health services to get my first COVID vaccine. So we're excited that those are rolling out. And this literally is what it looked like today. So I'm going to kick it over to Shannon to share a little bit more about herself.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for sticking with us as we figured this all out. We are eager to talk to you, so thanks for being there. Shannon Clark, I'm an Assistant Dean in the Office of the Dean of Students, and one of the areas I oversee is Parent and Family Services.
And good evening, everyone. We had these wonderful introductions that we already said, but you didn't hear them. But my name is Alicia Stewart-Wojtek. I serve as the Associate Vice President of Campus Operations and University Housing. So I'm happy to answer questions about life on campus and what to expect and next steps. So we're excited to have this evening with you. Thanks for hanging in.
And to start us off, because Shannon, it's their first time joining us with this group of parents, if you could say a little bit more about what Parent and Family Services is and some other things they might need to know.
Sure, I'd be happy to. You all know that I love nothing better than talking about families and talking about student development, and that's really where my heart is. So Parent and Family Services exists at NAU to serve our families. So our purpose is to provide kind of landing spot. If you need a good referral, if you need to know the appropriate office to call, you need resources for your student, support for your student, Parent and Family Services is a great place to start. And also we plan fun stuff for families like Family Weekend. I'm going to talk about the backpack later, Chad. So okay, that's a whole topic.
Sounds great. So I kind of bucketed the questions into some different themes, and COVID certainly was one of them that came up. And Annika, I was wondering if you could kind of start us off by talking about COVID a little bit as far as what was in place this last year, what if that's going to be in place next year, and then lots of vaccine questions came in as well.
Yeah, I know, lots of vaccine questions. So yeah, let's just jump in. So as many institutions across our country and in your hometown and high schools and for those of you that have younger children too, kind of everything looks different in the education space, and here at NAU, no different. So heading into the fall and throughout the fall, we did pretty well mitigating cases on campus, and that was a multi-pronged approach from our faculty and how they were managing the classroom space, to our residence halls, our masks, students, faculty, and staff, and anyone joining us on campus as a visitor is required to wear a mask, not unlike many places across the country. We also had a robust mitigation testing starting, in August as students were returning. We required a PCR test when they moved in. And then throughout the semester, students, faculty, and staff were called randomly each week for the next week to be tested. I myself got tested every other week. It was free. You could make an appointment and walk in, and from my office to testing and back, I could do it in 7 minutes. So it's really, really fast. That similar testing has started back up in the new year as well. And I've already been tested a couple times. And today was the first day we were offering the 1B population in Arizona. So 1B in different states looks different. So I know we have a number of people. I think I saw someone from Tennessee and Hawaii on the chat. So kind of across the country, it looks different slightly. Our 1B population are teachers and higher education professionals, so we would fall in that. And we are working with the Coconino County and the Arizona Department of Health to continue offering vaccines to 1B. Once we're done with 1B, we'll roll into group 2 and whatever subcategories are there. Our nursing, our physical therapists, faculty, and students were in 1A as healthcare professionals, and we vaccinated a large group of them over the last week and a half. So today was the first day of 1B. We do plan to keep that going as long as we're able to get that supply from the state and the county, and things are looking up on that front. So we do plan to continue that. We're able to offer, I think at last count, it was about 650 vaccines per day on our campus. So hoping our supply can keep up, just like many other facilities, not only around our state, but across the country as well. At this point, we're not requiring the vaccine for our student population, faculty, or staff, although many seem to be asking questions and really want it. So we're anxious to continue to be able to offer that. At the same time, those mask mandates, reduce class size, reduce dining facility size, and our mitigation testing is still all happening in full force. So as these things roll out, we're not going to drop any of those requirements like masks or offering students different ways to learn, whether it be fully remotely, but in a synchronous way. All options are out there. We're keeping all of that moving forward. A couple websites I'd like to direct you to: nau.edu/coronavirus. Each week, we update the number of cases we're managing both on and off campus. We're a predominantly residential campus, and that's why we have Alicia joining us, because the residential piece, as the chat indicates, is such a big part of the student experience here. And so as a residential campus, that's a big portion of our population, but also within a half mile of our campus here in Flagstaff, most of the other students live. So we're a tight-knit community. So we are managing cases for students both on campus as well as off campus, which is a little different. Each institution has a dashboard that looks slightly different. Ours is there. We're sharing testing positivity rates and all of that good stuff. Another update, another website, nau.edu/Jacks are back. When we were all heading back this fall, we wanted to make sure things about wearing a mask and what NAU Flex is and how do I learn more about how my course is delivered from my faculty member. How do I contact my faculty member? All of that is on that Jacks are back website. Just went over a pretty major overhaul in the last couple of weeks as things were updated, and vaccine information is on there as well, and that keeps getting updated. So those are the two kind of coronavirus COVID areas I would direct your attention to. As students are moving onto campus for this spring, we are requiring that PCR test as well. In the fall, it's too soon to tell whether we're going to be requiring that, maybe, or a vaccine or something. I'm not sure yet. We don't have those answers yet. As everything with COVID, some of those decisions, it's just too soon to make some of those. But our intention is to hoping to have kind of a normal move-in and welcome process for our new fall 21 students. I myself have a senior in high school, so I know he's looking forward to some of those things as well. And so hopefully it'll look different than it did in fall 20, but I'm not sure if we'll ever go back to how it was. I'm sure there'll be new things in place too. And that's why we've scheduled these parent chats once a month and more so in the summer as we're leading up to some of those things. I think I covered all things COVID that were initially asked in the survey.
I think so. Yeah, that was really helpful I know that's on the forefront of people's minds, and to kind of set the stage for what's coming up. And those of you that may be watching this recorded after the fact, to kind of lay out the order we're going to be addressing things. And again, hundreds of questions came in via the survey, and I tried to categorize them as best as possible. So the first thing we're going to kind of touch on is academics, and then we're going to jump into campus resources. There's a lot of questions about finances. We'll do that next. Dining, then housing, transportation, getting to and from campus, around campus type questions. Several questions around next steps, and then kind of an other bucket if we've got a chance to get to those. But certainly, if you've got a specific question to yourself, always feel free to email us at admissions@nau.edu, and we're happy to answer those questions or set up one-on-one appointments at admissions.appointment@nau.edu. If you've got kind of questions specific to yourself and your student that you might not want to ask in this format. So jumping into the academics piece, I'm going to throw this to you, Annika, to start. Our class, and I saw Joan, I believe, asked it in the chat as well too, the live chat coming in. Our class is going to be in person. Are they going to be online for fall? What does that look like?
Yeah, so we're hoping to have more of an on-campus presence than we have, but we do have some in-person classes now. Now we have had a few feet of snow in the last couple of days, so today was really that first day back of non-full remote learning for our spring term, but that would have started Monday if we hadn't had our great storm that we just got. So our NAU Flex technology stack allows the instructor to teach a group, kind of how we're talking to you through a stream or a Zoom meeting, which we're all super used to at this point, as well as have students in front of them in the classroom. And right now that's in a socially distanced, reduced capacity format. So my typical example is typically our English 105 classes have about 24 students in them. Whether it's taught, students have the opportunity to choose to take that all online, or with NAU Flex. And if, my student wanted to stay in their hometown and not come to Flagstaff, but still learn with us, they could let their professor know, and we are asking students throughout and how they schedule classes. They would know this. That would be NAU Flex, and they could take it all remotely, that they would be joining a class at a specified time, just as if they were coming in person, and have that professor teaching them, but in this format. At the same time, they would be engaging with students that may be physically located in Flagstaff. And so that's really the beauty of the Flex technology, that the student has the opportunity to kind of choose their own adventure, if you will. I will say, through the course of this year and speaking with a ton of students and parents, students really want to be engaged on campus, right? They want to come, they want to have that experience and go to class and figure out how to go to class and all that good stuff. And so that's been fun to see students still navigate that. But maybe they're going to that English class instead of 4 days a week, they're going 2 days a week in person and then joining 2 days a week remotely, just kind of depending on the capacity of that class and their desire as well. So I would say I've been on the phone with a number of folks across the country as we grapple with what will higher education look like moving forward. I don't think we'll ever probably totally abandon this flex, even if everything was back to normal, because I think students are really enjoying the flexibility of learning in different ways. And I will say, I have seen some amazing creativity by some of our instructors to keep students engaged and doing some really cool things. And really seeing some more engagement just in different ways than what we're used to.
Thanks, Annika. There's a couple of questions kind of on the front of honors versus non-honors and what kind of the difference is there. And I can talk about how definitely the community aspect of it, and our students that are in the Honors College and live on campus are living within the Honors College living and learning community. So there's certainly that community piece. There are some resources available there for students in terms of classroom space, writing centers, those types of things to help students in the Honors College. And a lot of the class sizes are real small, more kind of discussion based for that. But if you want to hear a more eloquent description of it, I would point you to our website, nau.edu/virtual. And we've got all kinds of videos and different things there, including videos from the Dean of the Honors College, who gives a great description an overview of what honors is. And we also have, and students will be getting more information about this, a whole week planned out to learn about the Honors College experience in early February. I believe it kicks off February 8th. And there'll be opportunities to check out videos on YouTube that take a deeper dive there if students are trying to decide if that's the right fit for them. So that kind of wraps up our academics category. Moving on to the campus kind of resources category, I categorized some questions in here. And going to get Shannon involved here. There's a question around what does a day of a first-year student on campus look like right now? Are there campus activities? What kind of support is there for students? If you could speak to that a little bit.
How about that? So a typical day now is a little bit different. We still see students on campus. They're using the dining halls and eating at our various dining locations. So they're out and about. They're walking around with their masks on around campus. If you've had the opportunity to be on our campus, you know it's just beautiful. So students have wonderful opportunities to be outdoors with their friends and walking and visiting and trying to make those important social connections. So some students are going to classes in person. Students are going to the library. Students are using different kinds of activities through our rec center, engaging in virtual activities like game night type things on Zoom and all kinds of fun stuff. So there's lots of things happening on campus. So Chad, what's the other part of that question? So that's kind of a typical day.
Yeah, then also kind of what kind of academic support or just support in general is available to students. And I'm gonna kind of wrap in the next question too with that. Students gonna be far from home, like who's available to help if there's a problem that comes up for that student?
Yeah. And that's a great question, especially for families who are listening who have high school students just finishing up high school. You're probably wondering, what kind of support there is on campus. I'm a huge fan of our various mentoring programs, peer-to-peer mentoring. I think that's a terrific way for students to get support they need and learn how to navigate our incredibly sometimes complicated system that we have at a university is our peer-to-peer mentors. And we have different entry points for our mentoring programs. There's also lots of support in the residence halls, tiered support. We have resident assistants who would be more like a peer, and then we have professional staff. All of those folks are trained to meet with students and work with them in terms of small problems all the way up to bigger problems. So those are terrific ways to receive support and plug into support. I also think clubs and organizations are another way that students can be a part of a system that is going to include some upperclassmen who may be kind of informal mentors or guides for our incoming students. So again, I think clubs and organizations are a terrific way. So those are kind of the informal ways for support, but we also have very structured support here. We have our academic support centers, we have our counseling center, we have our academic advising center. So outside of the peer-to-peer system, we also have some real structured systems to support students based on what they have, what their needs are.
One other piece I would add to that is as part of a typical day is our students work too. A lot of a big portion of our new and continuing students choose to work either on campus in one of our student worker jobs. I'm always the first to say our offices simply wouldn't run without our student help. And it's so valuable to us, but also super valuable for them because they're not only earning money, but also gaining professional experience. And some students may not have had that leading up to college. And our career planning team, career services team can help students write their first resume if they haven't done it, do mock interviews. And so that's another resource that students use, whether they're going to work on campus or off campus. And we do see, I know one of the questions that came in on the survey was, can a first year student work on campus? And the answer is absolutely yes. And students start looking at that handshake. They can upload a resume there. They can search for jobs on there, both on and off campus. And students start really engaging with that tool kind of after they're graduated from high school, and they get in there and start looking. Some of our jobs may hire, right away when they get to campus. So work is another piece of that kind of daily routine often.
So within the resources kind of section we're in now, there was a question around campus medical facilities and the ability to, outside of pandemic type stuff, like just regular checkups and other things like that. Shannon, what's available on campus for students in that realm?
Well, that's a great question because I love every opportunity to talk about our wonderful campus health services. We have a comprehensive health center right here on campus. For those of you who've been to campus, maybe you paid attention to where our beautiful rec center is, and maybe you didn't notice that's also where campus health is. So it's a terrific location, easy for students to get to, and it is comprehensive. Monday through Friday, services are available. There's an urgent care side. So for students who like have a really bad cold or the flu, they can plug in on the urgent care. For a very fast opportunity to be seen by a provider, or say a student wants to have their well woman care at our campus. They can schedule an appointment with one of the providers. We have physicians, we have nurse practitioners, and these are folks who are highly regarded in our community. They have chosen to work at NAU. It's not just a backup plan. So we are really lucky to have outstanding providers. And I can tell you, I get all of my medical care here on campus, and I feel really fortunate about that. So yeah, there's different kinds of insurance that the health center takes, and there's a website that describes all that. You can go to nau.edu/campus health, and that'll take you to their landing page, and you can navigate around, see what insurance is available. And then there's also a phone number if you have specific questions about your plan. Does NAU take your student's plan? And what other options might be available for payment. Check out the website. If you have additional questions, give a call to that. Oh, one more thing. Sorry, Chat. There are a couple of urgent cares that are within almost walking distance, maybe a short Uber ride from campus if your student gets ill on the weekend. And we have one wonderful hospital in our town, which is probably 2 miles from campus, which is a full-on emergency department, full service hospital. So your student will be in good hands here in our mountain town.
Thank you, Shannon. So shifting to our next category, which we got a lot of questions in this category, and gonna kind of try to rapid fire some of them here. Finances and the financial side of things. And really, if you've watched one of our Discover NAUs virtually, we always talk about kind of 3 kinds of fit: academic fit, social fit, and financial fit. And certainly we try to have a lot in place to help with that financial fit thing. But we realize that's one of the things you want to get feel good about as a family as you're sending your student off to college. So I'll start off with the first one. Do first year students have to stay in the residence halls in order to receive their scholarships? That's a quick one. No, it's not required. Certainly always highly recommend living on campus. Lots of great resources there. About 90% of our incoming first-year students choose to live on campus in a typical year. So would recommend it, but not a requirement for the scholarships. Annika, I'll throw this one your way. For the Lumberjack Scholarship, or really any of our scholarships, can students take a gap year, gap semester? Would they still receive the scholarship then if they came?
Yeah, so one thing, you know, with COVID, we've seen more students deferring a year, taking a gap semester. I worked with one student in Oregon throughout the fall to make sure her scholarship was still going to be in place when she arrived just a couple weeks ago, actually. And the answer is yes, we are being pretty flexible with that. I will say though, you know, just like most campuses, we do an evaluation of all of our scholarships each year. And at this point, obviously, fall 21, we're locked in. A lot of students have already received scholarships and financial aid packages. And we're in the process of evaluating scholarships going into fall 22. And so there is, you know, if you receive the Lumberjack in fall 21, but you're going to defer, we can defer that to fall 22. But if your student does take like a year of community college, then we would honor that scholarship for 3 years versus the 4 years, because we take that transfer credit in. And so there's some nuance, and each person and each student is slightly different. So you can certainly reach out to us, and we can explain all that in your specific situation. So that's kind of how that works.
So I know Annika touched a little bit on the student employment and talked about Handshake to find positions on campus. Shannon, I was wondering if you could talk about like what kind of student jobs there are on campus.
Like Annika said, I sometimes think that the students run this place. You know, when we don't have our student workers, we're very sad. We have terrific student workers in the Office of Student Life that run kind of the front end of our operation. Students run all of our dining facilities around campus. Those are great jobs for students. They work in departments. They work with professors. They work in the library, dining halls. I mean, they're everywhere. Thousands of students. Some are work study, but not all are work study. I think I saw some questions that said, you know, what if your student isn't work study? We have both. We have students who work study, students who just earn just an hourly wage. Even for students who are work study, they're not going to know the difference in their paycheck. They will get the same kind of paycheck. The work study is on the back end for NAU. It means that the federal government is helping pay their hourly wage, but the student still gets the same check as a non-federal work study student. So lots of jobs on campus. Again, Handshake's the place to go. Students should start looking this summer because a lot of our offices need student workers right when the term starts.
Now just jump into residence halls are a great place to work as well. Each residence hall has a front desk that are staffed by front desk assistants who are supervised by student desk managers. Our resident assistants or RAs are great student leadership positions that are in the halls, residential college ambassadors. So definitely a lot of great inclusion and diversity scholars also work in the residence halls and on campus. So there's a lot of great opportunities. So definitely take advantage. And we generally, even for our front desk positions, which we do hire, you know, we have quite a few freshmen in our staff model right now, and we generally will even start interviewing over the summer and kind of leading into the fall, so it's not too early.
So I'm seeing some questions in the chat. I think Janet just asked one in the chat around if that's something they need to apply for the scholarship piece. So kind of shifting to scholarships now. We do have a suite of scholarships that will automatically consider students for upon admissions. There are additional ones that your student can apply for. Our foundation scholarships, so from the NAU Foundation, there is a separate application that students can fill out for that. If you just search for NAU Foundation scholarships, you can find that application. And one thing of note, those of you watching today, that actually does close relatively early, the 28th. So tomorrow night at midnight is when that one closes. The Office of Financial Aid also has some additional scholarships that students can submit an application for. That one closes March 1st. So there's two different applications as of the moment we're speaking now that are open right now that students could apply for additional scholarships. However, like I said, we do have merit awards that students are considered for at the time of admission. So several different tiers for our in-state students, some scholarships for our students coming from the WUI, the Western Undergraduate Exchange states, as well as our true non-resident students will automatically be considered for those. And Annika, I think there was a question that had come in around, could they be considered for a higher scholarship later on, if you want to speak to that?
So we do the scholarship awarding at the time of application. If, we realize that this fall looked different for many high school students. Some move from a semester term to a quarter term, a block term. I know that happened with our high schools here in town. So lots of different nuance. And so we can relook at what you were awarded maybe in the fall when your student applied. We can relook at it this semester. But kind of May 1 is the National Let Schools Know Where You Go Day. That's kind of our deadline for a lot of different things. So I know earlier in the chat there was like, there's this enrollment deposit of $250 to secure your spot in the incoming class. That's refundable up until May 1st. So that we use that May 1st deadline. And with COVID last year, that moved back to June 1st, but the timing's still about the same. So if your student has updated transcript information and wants us to relook at it, I'd encourage them to allow us to do so. They can do that by going through that admissions email that Chad mentioned earlier, admissions@nau.edu. And we can work to get that reevaluated. It'll take probably a couple weeks for us to do that. To go back into that and relook at all of that, but yes, we can do that during this current semester that we're in now.
I'm going to throw this one your way, Annika. If a hybrid instruction model or a virtual only model of some sort was used next fall, would tuition remain the same?
Yeah, so the way we assess tuition is in 3 different buckets, and it's by the academic program of choice. So we do have a whole suite of online academic programs that are taught in an asynchronous way, so at the student's own pace. So students in online programs would register for all online classes and take those and pace those based on their own kind of schedule. There's not a set time for class per se. Those academic offerings typically have been geared towards adult graduate students and degree completion. There are some that are 4-year in nature, but those are much fewer. That's just how we've designed our online suite of programs. The next way is through one of our statewide campuses. We have 20 locations statewide housed at different community college, and that's proven a different model as well, because even though we're doing some in-person, some of those community colleges have gone fully remote, but we do have access to some of those. So some of those are in-person at those sites are still happening. So that's another way. So if you're at a statewide site, there's one tuition rate. If you're online, there's one tuition rate. And then if you're in a Flagstaff program, there's one tuition rate. So those 3 tuition rates are set each spring by the Arizona Board of Regents. And so usually by April, maybe beginning of May, we have the tuition set for the following year. And so that's how we work tuition. So if NAU, if this past year, our tuition stayed the same, for regardless of course delivery. So with that NAU Flex technology, some students chose to join in person, some chose to join remote. Scholarships remain the same for tuition as well. Our online and statewide campuses and tuition rates don't have the same scholarships we have for our Flagstaff students. So there's lots of pieces to consider in that bucket. But our tuition stayed the same regardless of course delivery and is based on academic program.
Thanks, Annika. So this next question here, I'll take this. My niece is from Wisconsin going to North Dakota. So I'm from Minnesota. So I grew up sandwiched between those two states, and they're receiving in-state tuition. Does NAU offer anything like that? So we don't have a match where students are receiving that reciprocity and that in-state tuition. However, we have our Western Undergraduate Exchange that I mentioned earlier, WUE, W-U-E. And with that, students from, I guess, the Dakotas on west receive a lower tuition rate than our true non-resident tuition rate, which is 1.5 times the resident rate is what that WUE rate is. So it is a reduction from our true non-resident rate, but not a true resident rate there. So, and we give that out as broadly as any institution in the country. Any program, there's not a cap on the number that can get it, no academic requirement. If you're coming from one of those WUE states, you will automatically qualify for that reduced tuition rate. So a couple different questions coming in around residency. There's actually one here that says we live in Minnesota and we'll pay out-of-state tuition. So hello, fellow Minnesotan. They're wondering about how they can become a resident. Annika, if you can maybe speak to that, as I know it's not an easy process for become a resident.
Yeah, sure. So all the residency requirements are on our website, nau.edu/residency. And there is quite a process to go through to establish residency, from registering to vote, driver's license, an affidavit. There's a number of different things. Those residency requirements are the same for all 3 of our state institutions. So, you know, none of us work independently to say, oh, you get residency. And then if you were to transfer, we would get a transfer from another institution. They're all the same. But that process is well outlined there. And so students, you have to be here for at least 12 consecutive months in the state before you can really petition to be a resident. And so those petitions are due at a specified time each term and are looked at and evaluated based on the documentation the student would provide. So tax implications as well. So the students need to be independent. So the parent can't be, in this case in Minnesota, claiming the student on the Minnesota taxes, and then students establishing residency. So those 2 things need to be separate. So just some nuances like that. But again, each family's situation is slightly different. We treat military and veteran and where placement happens with that slightly different as well. And so there are nuances that are different. So definitely check out that residency website. You can also call our Student Service Center. They are the amazing folks that are on the line to answer all those initial questions or to get you to our manager of our residency. So we have a specific person to talk through residency. His name is Ryan Baker, and actually used to be a student worker at NAU back when I started a long time ago. And now he's one of our awesome professional staff members. So Ryan can help answer any very specific questions of your situation.
Thank you, Annika. One more question on the finance section. And I know the pandemic has affected many people in terms of their income, or may have seen drops, or maybe job loss, that type of thing. Is there a way that they can reach out if their income's changed and maybe their FAFSA that they filed is not really reflective of their financial situation?
Yes, there is. And our financial aid office has, it's called I think it's called a financial aid appeal, actually, that simple. And there is a reason to cite COVID and all of those things on there. So we know that the FAFSA that you filed was for 2019, and that was, if we can all go back there for just a minute in our heads and think we didn't have to worry about masks and other things at that time. And our daily lives looked quite different, and our work lives looked much different. So that's the FAFSA, that's the tax year we're looking at to build the financial aid package for fall 21. Well, we know that a lot has happened, so you can certainly do a contribution appeal of that estimated family contribution. So the free application for federal student aid, or FAFSA, if you have not filed one as a family yet, I highly recommend doing it. You never know. And we also helped use FAFSA information when we awarded some of our CARES funds. So just something to be mindful of. Definitely want to do that. But if you've already done it, the federal government calculates what they are currently calling estimated family contribution, or in a couple years they're changing it to the student aid index. But it based on your assets and your family situation gives us an amount of how much they can expect the family to contribute to the student's education. Takes into account multiple students in college at the same time, etc. So we get that information, and then we build that financial aid package. Included in there might be those merit scholarships, the lumberjack presidents, the WUI Gold, etc. And then additional aid, so federal and other state aid that we would award. Any additional scholarships from those scholarship applications that Chad mentioned could be added later on to that as well. And grants is another one. And so we build that from the FAFSA, but if your FAFSA information changes, we want to know it, because then it'll change, it will change that financial aid package. So that appeal can be found on our financial aid website. And then how to submit that securely and all that is in there as well.
Thanks, Annika. So that wraps up kind of our finances section. Let's talk about food. Dinner time here in Flagstaff. Some of you may be eating dinner as you're tuning in and watching this. Alicia, if you could just kind of talk broadly meal plans, kind of what that looks like, just broadly to give us an overview.
Yeah, so as an incoming freshman, again, I think it's been mentioned, but as Chad mentioned before, we do not require students to live on campus. While most of our students do choose to live on campus, or especially our freshmen, when you do live on campus, then you are required to have a meal plan. We want that to go hand in hand, keep you well fed and good nutrition and all. So you'll choose from a weekly meal plan, and you'll do that if you already haven't applied for housing. When you do apply for housing, there's a page in there that you select your meal plan. So generally it's made up of weekly meals and then an amount of dining dollars. And generally the weekly meals, they reset each week, but you use those towards, you can use them there, like, so we have about 30 dining locations across campus. You can do one swipe, like a one meal in the all you care to eat facilities, and eat all you care to eat at that point for one swipe. You can also use them for what we call transfer meals. The best way to describe that is kind of like a value meal. So maybe like, main dish and a side and a drink, such as like at Subway, you can use one meal to get a 6-inch sub, either chips or a piece of fruit and a drink. So that would be one meal swipe. So those come in really handy, and the majority of the dining locations have daily transfer specials. Additionally, the dining dollars portion is kind of like just an amount that ties in with the weekly meal. So the higher number of weekly meals you have, the lower amount of dining dollars you have. But that's kind of just like a reducing amount. So as you use it, it just keeps reducing that amount. So for example, say you're running, you're going between classes and you just want to pick up Starbucks, or you want to pick up, a bagel or something like that, you can use your dining dollars. We can also use them at our convenience stores or markets on campus. So if you need to pick up anything there, and some of those also have like late night hours for, pizzas and that kind of thing, in addition to some of the convenience items. Those dining dollars do roll over from fall to spring, and then they expire at the end of spring. So those are kind of the two main components that you use. as part of your meal plan. And you can also, if you're not sure what to pick, we get that question a lot. A lot of people will kind of start with the 14 meals a week, and then you can adjust that in the first 3 weeks of the semester. So if you try it out and you feel like I need more meals, you can up that. Or if you are, having some and you're rolling them over each week, and there's a certain amount that will roll over and the rest you don't. You can adjust that in the first 3 weeks, and you can also change it at semester. So if you started with fall and you wanted to change it for spring, you can do that as well. And then once you select it in the housing portal, like over the summer, if you decide you want to change that, you can also change it through your Louis account over the summertime. So a lot of flexibility there. Dining is a great option on campus, very, very convenient, a lot of great options. As a vegan myself, I eat, so if you have a specialty diet or any restrictions, campus dining works with the nutritionist to make sure there's great amounts of well-balanced meals and all kinds of, if you have allergens, there's always like an allergy-free zone and that kind of thing. So a lot of great opportunities with the dining plan.
Absolutely. And I certainly, as a staff person, take advantage of that as well. I've been sipping on my Jamba Juice. I've got a Starbucks I finished up earlier today, and I go to the all you care to eat dining halls frequently as well too. I like to utilize that and the convenience of that on campus food.
Chad just eats all day. That's all he does.
Yep. That kind of wraps up our dining session. Thanks for that good overview of the dining piece. Before we transition to housing, I think there's questions that have come in the chat, and then kind of as an answer to some that have came in ahead of time on the survey, like how do we know this certain thing? It could be, how do we know we got into the honors college? How, do we learn about housing stuff or the FAFSA, if that was accepted and what happened there? Check your NAU email address. The students, that should be a habit that they get into, is frequently checking that. A lot of official communication that comes from the university in certain departments on campus will specifically just communicate with that NAU email address. So really recommend getting in that habit of doing so. And you could set up, forwarding or something like that if your student's not in there all the time. I think that's a good option as well, because we got asked the question, how often should they check? It's hard to know exactly when those communications would be coming. So setting up a forwarding might make sense for now. So Alicia, we had you off the hook for a lot of the start, but now we move into the housing section with a lot of questions that came in ahead of time. I'm going to start with when is the move-in date for fall semester, or is that set? What does that look like?
Yeah, so I'd love to be full of good information, and that's a question to start off with that I don't have a good answer for yet, because just due to COVID and we're going to have to see how that plays out for fall. But generally, once we know when the first day of class is going to be, and we arrange move-in around that. This fall, we did a different type of move-in where it was very staggered. We always do a staggered move-in just to help with traffic flow, but this fall was extra staggered over a longer period of time, which really helped to mitigate the spread, potential spread of the virus. So I think we'll probably do some sort of hybrid version of that coming into the fall once we see what things are looking like with vaccines and all that. So as we get closer, we'll continue to communicate updates. And certainly once we've landed on what move-in will look like and when your time would be or how to do that, we'll communicate that with you. But generally, you'll also select a move-in appointment from available times based on whatever category you're in, and we'll communicate that to you. So we usually do a high level of detail in July about upcoming move-in and how to schedule your move-in appointment and what to expect and what to bring. And I'm sure we'll be on more of these parent chats on an ongoing basis. And so it gets more detailed the closer we get. So we'll make sure that you get all that information. And talking about email, for students applying for housing, there's a field that you can enter in a parent or family member email if you want them to get emailed as well. So we use that quite often, not for every single one, but most of the real high level important ones that we need to make sure the message is getting out. We ask you to support us bringing that to students' attention, because they do get a lot of email too.
Question around payment dates or paying for housing, how that's structured and how that works in the fall.
Yeah, so for 21-22, so for next academic year, rent payments are going to be broken up into 3 payments per semester. So there'll be 3 in the fall and 3 in the spring. You can pay all of fall, so you can pay 1 semester at a time if you prefer to do that. And if you're expecting financial aid that goes beyond tuition, there's kind of an automatic waterfall. So, if you have financial aid, it'll go to tuition first. And if you have remaining aid after that, then it will go to housing. If you have aid after that, it'll go to dining. So there's kind of a prescribed waterfall in that way. And so if you have aid towards housing, that gets dispersed, and then you can log in to see your remaining balance. We'll have those 3 due dates posted as we get closer to the fall semester, but that's what that will look like next year.
How about, so if a student's accepting their offer and saying they're coming to NAU, they pay a $250 enrollment deposit, and then they can choose after that, they have the option to apply for housing, and they pay that $100.
Correct.
When will they then find out like what housing they're in after that point in time? What's the timeline there?
Yeah, so I'm going to talk a little bit about the housing portal and the housing application. So you're going to get used to the housing portal. You'll log back in there for multiple things, kind of all things housing. When you initially apply for housing, you cannot apply until you've been accepted to NAU and pay the enrollment deposit. And then that opens that gate to then apply for housing through the housing portal. Generally, after you've paid your enrollment deposit, it's typically a business day turnaround that you can then access the housing portal. Once you apply, we then add a $100 non-refundable application fee to your student LUI account. So that will be on your student LUI account. It has a due date on it. So that part is non-refundable. Later, you will pay what's called a housing rent confirmation payment. That usually gets posted mid-spring, usually around the beginning of March. If you've applied at that point, we'll post that charge, but that's not due until May 15th. And that particular payment will go towards rent. So it's kind of your first rent payment and just confirms, yes, I intend to come, and we're gonna, make sure that you have that space on campus. I think I saw a question in the chat about, is housing guaranteed for freshmen? And yes, it is. We will always house every freshman who wants to live on campus. That is guaranteed. So going back to the housing application, right now you can go in and apply, and there's just a few steps open. It's pretty quick to apply. And then every time we open a new step, we will email you to say, hey, it's time to, now you can go search for roommates. And so you'll be able to look for roommates. That's an optional thing. In terms of using the browse function, you can browse by overall best matched, or you can browse by someone or you can, we ask about 10 questions that get you started about the roommate. So you'll do this roommate questionnaire. You can do a bio that will talk a little bit about yourself beyond the questions, and then you can search for roommates using that tool. So when each step opens, and then later room selection will happen, and we'll tell you when it's time for your room selection to go in and pick your room. So you actually pick your specific room. And there's a lot of details on that. We have on our website, if you go to how to apply, we even have little videos of how each step kind of works, so you can watch those. And then in addition, if you, once you've been admitted to NAU, you'll probably be getting an invite here soon in the next few weeks for NAU Said Yes. And that's, I think, at the end of February. But that will there's one day that's kind of dedicated to life on campus. And we've put a lot of detail in that session. So I would encourage you to tune in, but really check your email. And right now we're focused on moving in our spring students, and that's where most of our energy has been going to do that safely. And so we're almost through that, and probably by the end of next week, it will be the next update to students who've applied thus far, just giving you what to expect in terms of general timelines. When we'll have roommate search open up in the next few weeks, and then we'll have roommate search going on, and then we'll have room selection going on. So we'll give you those general timelines probably by the end of next week. And then your specifics within that, you'll get emailed and prompted when it's time to do that.
Thanks, Alicia. I'm going to bring Shannon back in and give you a break for a second here. And just wanted to talk about, obviously, we highly recommend those first-year students living on campus, but some may choose to live off campus, or maybe as they continue at their time at NAU, maybe move off campus. what do off-campus housing options look like for students in the Flagstaff community?
There's lots of housing really close to campus, within walking distance of campus. If you've been to Flagstaff, you've seen the housing that circles campus. I did a real quick look to see what resources were out there. There's an NAU page on our website, nau.edu, that's called Louie's List, that lists some off-campus properties. And there's also a way that students can log in with their NAU credentials and look for roommates in an off-campus setting. And then just a really quick search of Facebook. I found lots of different Facebook groups where students will share they're looking for a space, or they're looking for a roommate, or they have a space for a semester, or they have a space for part of a semester. Maybe their roommates studying abroad or something like that. So social media is a great way for students to find off-campus housing or find roommates, but there are also some resources available on our NAU website.
Thanks, Shannon. Alicia, I think you gave a good overview of the overall process and all of that. If a student, to make their decision, wants to see a residence hall room and kind of get a sense of what that looks like, can you talk about like virtual options to see residence hall rooms or things along those lines?
Yeah, and I know that's one of those people are anxious to get in and kind of sit in the space and stand in the space, and I hear you on that. And so the question has also come up, like, can I go into the halls? And unfortunately, right now we can't because with COVID and protecting students who are currently living in the halls. We're not allowing external guests to come in. But in place of that, we have some great resources on the website. So if you go to the University Housing website, and under Life on Campus, there's a residence hall. It says residence halls is the menu item, and then every hall has its own page. And on those pages, you'll find 3D floor plans, virtual reality floor plans. So you don't need a headset, but if you have one, you can use it. But that one, you can kind of go into the floor plan and kind of click around and move around the room. And there's little call outs that give you little tips about each space and some things to know. There's photos on there and there's videos. So we try to do a multimedia display and information for each hall to help you get the best as possible. So definitely check that out. And then on in the hall, there's also like amenities listed and measurements and what comes with the room. So that's all on there as well.
Thanks, Alicia. So that kind of wraps up our housing section. I'm going to jump into a few transportation questions. I'll take the first one. Out-of-state students needing to fly to Arizona, to Flagstaff, what does that look like? What's the best way and most convenient way to do so? A couple of options there. If you're flying into Phoenix, which is about 2 hours, give or take, away from Flagstaff, there are some shuttle options there. There's some private companies that offer shuttles, and last I checked, about maybe $45, $50 one way on those shuttle options, and they'll drop you off right by campus. There's also a bus company that offers bus fares to some other cities, including Phoenix. But we have an airport here in Flagstaff, a smaller regional airport, which I find super convenient. I haven't used it in almost a year now, of course, but they offer currently, as of last time I used it, free parking there for students that are flying out of the airport, and just a short drive away from campus. And you can fly out of Flagstaff down to Phoenix if you've got a connection there, or they currently have direct flights up to Denver, Colorado, as well as Dallas, Texas. So those are some major hubs that can get you off in the direction that you're going. Certainly Amtrak too. Amtrak drops off not too far from campus, and I know some of our California students utilizing Amtrak to get to and from. Shannon, I'll throw you this way, and there was a couple variations of this, of do you need a car? If you bring a car, what does parking cost? If you can talk a little bit about the car debate and the parking debate.
Sure. I think that we would all concur that we would love it if freshmen would leave cars at home. It's just one extra thing to worry about. Our freshmen are figuring out a lot of things when they come to campus. It would be nice if they also didn't have to worry about a vehicle. So All good things happen on campus. 90% of their freshman pals are going to be on campus, so they don't need a car. They can walk to Target, they can walk to Safeway, they can get on the Mountain Line City Bus if they want to zip around town. So yes, we would love it if freshmen didn't bring their cars, but your family can talk about it and decide. Parking passes are available. They cost around $500. The rates are not posted for next year, but $500 give plus or minus a little bit. So it is a big investment for your family. Lots of different options. We have some covered parking options, which cost a little bit more. We have some surface lot options, and then residential students will be assigned a lot right by their residence halls. Students and faculty and staff, we don't drive around campus. You park your car for the day, and then we all jump on the shuttle to get around campus. So we have a terrific shuttle, loops around campus and runs through the center of campus. Students can jump on it if they, for example, if they live on the north side and they need to get to the south side, they can jump on that bus and get to their class rather easily. We're also a great biking campus. Students can cycle around campus easily. We're a terrific walking campus with wonderful sidewalks. And so lots of different great ways to get around without needing to bring a car.
And I even saw some students out there biking today in the snow before it melted. It was early this morning, but they certainly manage. I will say the sidewalks on campus were much more clear of snow than my neighborhood. So we make that a priority because we know students have places to go, classes to attend. So campus was beautiful and clear walkways today.
Wanted to shift back to housing just because I saw in the chat there were some different things coming in around upperclassmen housing. So after that first year, can students stay on campus? So Alicia, can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, and we definitely encourage you to do so. There's plenty of options. So with 22 residence halls on campus, we have the freshman halls, and there's some questions in there too about what does that look like? And so those are more traditional halls. Again, you can get a good tour on the website. The Honors College is a semi-suite, so it's a little bit more of a private suite type hall. And then for your upper division, as you go into sophomore, junior, senior year, you can stay on campus. And the upper division buildings, we have a combination. There's 3 suite style residence halls that are kind of Jack and Jill, like, the 2 rooms connected by a bathroom or sharing bathroom, with 4 students in a suite generally. And then apartments, we have a range of kind of apartment types with different levels of privacy in terms of single rooms or shared rooms and amenities and all that. So there's definitely a wide variety here at NAU of housing options. And so you can certainly continue to live on campus after your freshman year.
Thanks, Alicia. And one more kind of transportation question, and the person that asked this, I think, was referencing the cost of attendance that you can see broken down on our website, which has some kind of more set costs there, but there's also some costs that are not set and more estimates to get you thinking about them as a family. And if you look at that cost of attendance, you'll see that that the travel or transportation line item is about $2,500. I got it pulled up now, $2,520. And I guess a clarifying point, I just want to say that that's not something that we're actually charging you that amount. That's just something that gets you thinking about as a family that there will be some cost to come to and from campus. So for instance, if you're a student joining us from Hawaii, which many students do, and you've got to think about back and forth flights for the holidays and the start and the end of the year, those expenses may be more expensive versus obviously a student joining us from Phoenix or Flagstaff or more local that might not have transportation costs that high. So not a set amount, and certainly ways to save on those costs by biking, walking, all the great things that Shannon laid out. So let's shift gears into next steps. And there I saw questions in the chat, and certainly questions came in ahead of time around campus tours, either virtual or in person, and trying to get a sense and a feel for campus. And we certainly recognize that setting foot on campus is a big part of that college decision process for a lot of students. I did mention a URL earlier, nau.edu/virtual is a great option for students to be able to see our campus visit presentation. You can take a virtual tour where you're actually kind of moving around campus and seeing some of the spaces. Or if you do come to Flagstaff and come to campus, we're not offering any sort of large tours, but our front doors are open to our Welcome Center, and we will sit down with families individually and chat with them and answer any questions. We've got tools to help you get around campus on self-guided tours that are available. We even have a podcast that's available. All this lives on that virtual page that I mentioned. And we've put together lots of videos there to answer a lot of the questions. And if you're on this NAU social YouTube page right now, you'll see there's a lot of other videos that have been created, including our Discover NAUs is showing up on the queue as the next video to play, at least on my end here. And that gives a real good overview of kind of the fit and the feel of NAU as a campus. So those are some options that are out there. We'd love to be doing large in-person tours again, but currently that's not the situation that we're in out of safety for you all and for our team. But happy to sit down with you if you find your way to Flagstaff when we're open 8 to 5, Monday through Friday in the Welcome Center here. And let's see, what else do we got? Next steps here. On enrolling in classes, Annika, I'll throw this to you. Are parents able to sit in on the meetings with academic advisors?
Yeah, so this is kind of wrapped with orientation, and I did see a question posted earlier, is orientation going to be in person or remote? And right now we are planning for a remote delivery of orientation, but let me tell you, our fingers are crossed that we can invite students back for some kind of optional bigger visit days in August prior to the start of the semester, kind of an orientation welcome kind of feel. Because we know some students will be joining us for the first time then if they're unable to get to campus or haven't been here yet. So we are hoping to do some larger scale orientation type of activities in August. So part of the next steps is completing priority enrollment. So your student will go in there and share. They might want to change their major from when they applied, or declare a major if they were exploratory, or maybe they've completed some coursework through dual enrollment or taken an AP test if that's available. And they want that included in there, that they didn't have it at the time of application. And so that's an opportunity for a student to share preferences and kind of update their academic record. And an academic advisor will take that later this spring and build the first semester. And we do multi-term enrollment, so first and in some cases second semester courses for the student. And so the first opportunity the student will have is to sit down with their academic advisor and go through that. Our advising team also does a parent session, and we too will be offering a parent orientation. I would encourage you, and I would be interested to hear Shannon's take on this as well. And I'm a parent of a senior, and so I understand the want to sit down and help your student navigate this. But that academic advising relationship is important for your student to establish, so they can be familiar with their academic advisor. Oftentimes there's follow-up questions. Those meetings can happen virtually, so certainly we're not going to like push you out of the Zoom room or anything. And there are opportunities to ask questions of academic advisors. But I would really encourage you, and I'm a parent that is sending a kid to school too, so it's like it means something different, because like I want to sit in on that meeting too. So like I fully get it. But to really give the student give them the tools to really establish that relationship, because it will be one that serves them not only at the time of their first, going into their first semester, their first year, but throughout their time. We also have a set of student ambassadors that help execute that orientation and also serve as resources for students and parents to answer some of those questions. Now, how do I log into Louie and add another class? And we're going to be covering all of that this summer. So Shannon, did you have anything to add on that?
Yes, I'm reminded of my son, who's now 26, his freshman year of college. He was an hour late for his 90-minute math placement test, and it totally affected his whole first year of college. And as a parent, I was just dying inside. It's like I wanted to fix it. I wanted to call somebody. I wanted to beg forgiveness, but no, he just had to figure that one out on his own, and it was a really hard lesson. But yeah, so as a parent, it's time. You got to just start letting your students take the lead and start to learn to manage their own affairs. It's in their best interest. That's the way they learn. But I wanted to give a quick pitch for the Backpack newsletter. This is the primary mechanism that we share regular news and updates with families, guests, anyone else who's interested in supporting a student at NAU. It's a bi-weekly newsletter, publishes every other week throughout fall term and spring term. I'm just proofreading the edition that's going to go out in a couple weeks. There's some great articles about the Student Leadership Conference that's coming up, a little bit about the supplemental instruction at the Academic Success Center, the Graduate School and Career Fair that's coming up, the residential college program, and some gorgeous pictures of campus. So if you live somewhere else, it's always nice to see what's happening in our 4 seasons here at NAU. So I think I said this, we don't automatically subscribe anybody. If you want to subscribe, you have to go to our website, nau.edu/backpack. Give us your email address and we're happy to send it to you. Grandparents love the backpack. I get the sweetest notes from grandparents. If your student has a grandparent that might like to get the backpack newsletter, they're welcome to sign up. If you're tired of getting it, or when your student graduates, you can just unsubscribe. It's as simple as that.
Thanks, Shannon. Yeah, I think we're talking the next step section, and that's certainly a next step for parents when they're done with this to sign up for the backpack newsletter. I think we'll hit just a couple more questions.
To say I just registered for the backpack because I hadn't yet done it, Shannon. So this is a great reminder for me and my students. So I just went on and did it.
So someone had asked what important dates do admitted students need to know about? A couple that I would hit on for sure. Students coming from Arizona that happen to receive our Lumberjack Scholars Award, our highest scholarship for students from Arizona. We do require a submission of a 7th semester transcript by February 10th. So that specific date affects that population specifically, but did want to put it out there. We've sent a few communications, but here's another chance to remind you on that date. And then May 1st is really that national accept your offer date. And to lock in and guarantee those scholarships, you do need to pay that $250 enrollment deposit by May 1st. Certainly you can do so earlier, and it's going to open up options to apply for housing or complete priority enrollment, all those kind of next steps that we've been hitting on. We mentioned the FAFSA earlier. As far as a date for that, as soon as possible. If you haven't done it already, complete that as soon as possible to maximize the amount of financial aid that we can give you. There was a question that had come in around our STAR program, for our first generation students. It's kind of a bridge program that happens in the summer, wondering when they're going to hear more information about that. I did speak to the person that is running that program. In the next couple of weeks, they should be getting an additional communication if they did accept their spot in that transition bridge program. And I think that hits on a lot of the main themes and big questions that came in. Thanks for sticking with us. Apologize again for the tardiness starting and the technical issues there, but hopefully this was informative and really helpful for you. And certainly not the last time we're doing this. We're going to continue to do this type of stuff throughout the summer and keep the questions coming. And by the end of summer, you'll be experts like we are, and you'll be helping other parents. And I already saw some of that happening in the chat tonight. So always love to see that. Thanks again for your time. Stay safe, stay healthy, and feel free to reach out if you've got any individual questions for you and your student. But take care. Go Jacks.
Bye.